Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Pac-12 Chat Show live here on the Voice of College Football channel. I'm Tony, as always, here with Rick and Chris. Our friend Tim is unfortunately not able to join us tonight, so you're stuck with us, but we'll have more time for you guys to call in, and we'll look forward to that. But hope Tim's all right, and we'll see him next time. All right, gang, we have quite a week in the Pac-12. Shall we take a look at some of the crazy things of this week that was?
Let's do it.
Let's do it.
A crazy week.
All right. Well, news of the week here in the Pac-12. Once again, we have the big question of what happens next, and we don't know yet. But a couple things that did happen this week, and they were big. First and foremost, we got more word that the Pac-2 do plan to try to operate themselves, potentially as a two-team conference, potentially in partnership with the Mountain West. Ross Dellinger reported that they tried to set up a scheduling alliance with the Sun Belt Conference and that didn't go through. But things are continuing to look up for the Cougs and the Beavs because they won their day in court. So yesterday in Colfax, Washington, in Whitman County Superior Court, the judge, who is a Wazoo alum and recently president of the local booster club for Washington State, ruled that Oregon State and Washington State can take control of the Pac-12 board on Monday, but that they must be equal and open to the departing schools. He said no one can take advantage of anyone. So that we'll see what happens, because that was put into effect Monday. There is a stay on that decision because UW and the other Pac-10 members are taking the Pac-2 to the Washington Supreme Court. So I'll read you guys real quick here what the statement is. We've got it on behalf of the 10 schools. They said, "We are disappointed with the decision and are immediately seeking review in Washington Supreme Court and requesting to put on hold implementation of this decision. As members of the Pac-12 participating in ongoing and scheduled competitions, we are members of the board under the Pac-12 bylaws. We have the right to the revenue earned by our schools during the 2023-24 academic year, which is necessary in order to operate our athletics programs and provide mental and physical health services, academic support, and other support programs for our student athletes." So the big question here, gang, is whether or not Oregon State and Washington State will get control of all the money, because they have said, and they said this in court, they intend to spend that money to basically to bribe other new teams to join. Now, we don't have to call it a bribe. We can call it incentivizing or growing. There are words we can use that aren't bribe new teams to join, but they mean bribe new teams to join. So it's going to be really interesting. And the other big question about this, which isn't really talked about much here, but is a huge issue, is the House versus NCAA lawsuit from Arizona State swimmer Grant House. Just got class action status, and that could be a $10 to $60 billion million bill per school just for that lawsuit alone. So there are huge liabilities that need to be considered as well. So it's not just about the revenue, but also about how the liabilities are going to work.
Tony, why don't you briefly, just to our viewers, talk about that NCAA class action suit that is happening?
Yeah, so the House lawsuit is really interesting. Grant House, who's the naming person, he's actually one of 3 athletes that are part of that. And they filed a class action lawsuit against the NCAA because the NCAA's behavior to restrict people from earning money off NIL was always illegal. They did not have an antitrust exemption. It was always illegal cartel behavior. So they've now filed a lawsuit from athletes who were playing before they were allowed to get money from NIL, saying it's effectively, you illegally restricted us from not being able to make money. You owe us, pay up. And the judge in the case is actually Judge Wilkins, senior judge for the Northern District of California, deeply respected judge. She's actually the same judge who shredded the NCAA on the 2014 O'Bannon decision, which was upheld by the Ninth Circuit and the Supreme Court. So she's already shredded the NCAA once for its illegal behavior, and she just gave this lawsuit class action status, which has the schools in a panic. And that lawsuit's filed against the NCAA and the 5 power conferences. So, depending on the amount of money, you read estimates that say it could be $1.5 billion, it could be $4 billion. That could range up to about $60 million per school, depending on the amount. So it's going to be really, really, really interesting. So anyway, so we'll see what happens with that lawsuit. Will be coming up. Now that doesn't go to trial till 2025. They may settle it beforehand if they're smart. But in the meantime, we'll see what happens with the Pac-10 versus the Pac-2. There's one other twist, and this has been dealt with in court. It's been dealt with in the filings. But just as a reminder, under the way the Pac-12 was founded, originally as the AAWU, then the Pac-8, Pac-10, and Pac-12. It's based in California, under California law. And this, again, by the way, the Pac-2 schools did not challenge this. They have not challenged this in any of their filings. They aren't challenging that this is the case. The really crazy thing is the 10 schools could, if they wanted to, and supposedly they don't want to if they don't have to, could actually vote to dissolve the conference. So we're going to see what happens. Yeah, Connor, I see Connor making nonsense. Connor, don't listen to those nonsense comments. The California laws apply. There's a lot of really dumb things right now. I get all these crazy messages from Oregon State fans. But the way the Pac-12 is set up in the state of California, the members could vote to dissolve it. Again, that was not challenged, not questioned by Oregon State or Washington State's lawyers. So, and pointed out by Washington and the other team's lawyers that they also weren't questioning it because it's the way it is. So anyway, so we'll see what happens, and hopefully they will settle this. Again, I continue to think the best answer is with the mediators. They have literally the guy who's supposedly one of the best mediators in the country. And because it's the Pac-12, also father of Ariana Grande's high school boyfriend, who is the mediator on the case. And hopefully he will do that, get it worked out, and we will not have to have Dr. Kelsey on there say, execute Order 66 on the Pac-12. So anyway, so that's what's going on.
Sounds messy.
It is so messy, but it's so Pac-12. That's the thing. It's messy, but it's Pac-12 messy.
Hey, I want to ask a question for you guys. Let's take it out of the courtroom and onto the playing field. What happens? I mean, you take a look at it. We're 8 to 9 months out until teams start going to camp at the beginning of August. What is going to happen? The transfer portal opens December 4th. If you're a player at Washington State and Oregon State and you do not know who you're going to play next year, if you're going to be in a conference, are you going to be independent? There's a lot of these things that have to happen if they're going to bring on Mountain West schools this year or next year. I mean, coaches too. Coaches have to look after their future. They don't know how much money the school is going to make. Everybody has to kind of defend for themselves. This is a very unique situation. What do you see happening, guys, with Oregon State and Washington State once the transfer portal opens up? And then also you have early signing day in December, and then you have the second signing day in February. What is going to be happening with these, with recruiting and the transfer portal with these two schools?
Yeah, I don't know. It's that's a very dicey question, right? And I think it's a very hard, as much as I wish it wasn't the case, I think it's going to be a very hard scenario for those schools. But at least on the coaching front, there's, it's not like there's any Pac-12 jobs, of other schools that used to be in the conference that will be moving to, like the Power 2 to have job openings or anything. So
There are no open jobs yet, are there?
No, there are no open jobs yet. So, you know, sleep tight in Corvallis. There's not a bunch of people, you know, what is it? How many miles south that are very, very interested in the way the Beavers play football?
In Tommy Protho version 2.0?
He was pretty good.
He was pretty good. He was pretty good.
I
will say, sorry, go ahead, Rick.
I was going to say I'd give Trent Bray a call if I was Jen Cohen. Got to put him in the interview list. Trent Bray's a great defensive coordinator. We saw how well they played against Caleb last year at Corvallis. So I'd have him on speed dial. I think he's making just over $1 million in his contract. Connor, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think it goes through 2023.
Double that.
He is a very good defensive coordinator. If we're on that subject, is there have there like been? Is it just floating of names at SC of who they might want? And is one of them our defensive coordinator?
You know what? It's been pretty hush. You know, people are throwing out names of who they should hire, and the number 1 and number 2 and number 3 is basically the same guy, the ex-Wisconsin.
Oh yeah, but I know maybe we can save this kind of thing for calls, but like all the coaching talk, maybe that's a good place for it. But at the end, but the one on the Jim Leonhard thing, I just have a sneaking suspicion. Like that guy was talking to like the Eagles to be their defensive coordinator. Like I mean, maybe he wants to go recruit, but like if he wants to be an NFL guy, like he's gonna have his opportunities. I don't know. Maybe you bring him in and he does it, but it feels like a prove yourself job, right? More than like it seems like a risky job for him to take. I mean, despite the fact that you have all of the talent, like he doesn't need to prove himself to like go to the NFL in the same way that like a DeAnthony Lynn did from being a position coach, or the 2 great coordinators Michigan have had in a row. I just kind of think that he's already like, you know, a made man, and maybe you can throw bags of money at him, but I have a sneaking suspicion that he'll either be in the NFL or maybe somebody will make him come back and be D coordinator. But I feel like people are talking about him as a potential head coach places too. It depends what he wants to do.
I'd love to have him. He's my number 1 personal favorite. But
we can get into this later. But I have my talking points on Jim Leonhard. So, but I digress. Go ahead. Let's move on. Sorry about that, Tony.
All right. So we did get into some games.
Let's do it.
All right. First, let's hit our tiebreaker scenarios. So, Washington clinches a spot in the Pac-12 title game this week with a win at. By the way, thanks to John Wilner for this graphic. Washington clinches a spot with a win at Oregon State or a Utah win over Arizona. So Washington almost assuredly in, I think. You know, if they get one of the two. Plus, they have another game as well. Oregon clinches a spot with a win over Arizona State and a Washington win over Oregon State. So, and Utah win over Arizona. So we'll see what happens with that. So it could very well be Washington, Oregon in a rematch. The others are all about staying in contention. So lots of more things would have to happen. Oregon State needs a win over Washington or wins by both Utah over Arizona and Arizona State over Oregon. Should have made a better chart for this. Sorry, guys. Arizona has to win to stay in contention, and Utah must beat Arizona and have a bunch of other things happen to stay in contention. So it is definitely Washington and Oregon leading the charge. And so we got some serious PNW love, and we'll dig into that more when we get to our power rankings.
The fact that Arizona still has like a technical path is hilarious.
Jed Fish is a god. I want it on the record. I have
a different take, but
years.
I have a different Jed Fish. It's I would say the fan base is 50-50 in Westwood on that one.
All right, so let's look at our games here. First up, guys, we've got Colorado and Washington State Friday night Pac-12 after dark. What do we think?
The Washington story of the season is just so crazy. Like, I've seen teams like fall apart or whatever, right? But like the fact that they started 4-0 and are 4-6 now, like,
how about both of these teams?
Yeah, you're right. It is. It's both teams shot out of the cannon, and I think that they're different to me, right? Because like even when Colorado was winning, I think that the TCU game was surprising, especially. But then once people kind of figured out that TCU wasn't really going to be that good this year, and then you look at some of the other games a little more closely and who they played and how they played out. Like 3-0 is 3-0, and they've still done a great job there this year. There's a couple things that I think are weird with the firing of their offensive coordinator, and I think there's some other things that are weird. But like overall, I think you have to give the staff of Colorado pretty, like you got to give them credit for doing what they did, especially with the start that they had. I know it's died out a little bit. Yeah, I don't know in this game. Like Washington State, it's so crazy. I thought the way that they played Wisconsin so early in the season, shutting down that run game like drastically. I had people, Big Ten friends texting me being like, wow, Washington State is so impressive, so good. And like they get into conference, they can't win a game. Yeah, I don't know. Both are struggling. One has to win. I'm gonna go with my cousin went to Washington State. I'm gonna do the thing from Game Day on this, where I just pick someone with a familial relationship. I'm gonna go with the Cougars because I've been to that stadium, and I'm going to roll with the Cougs to win it at home and stay bowl eligible going into the Apple Cup.
All right, yeah. Rick. Tim texted in. Tim says Wazoo. Who have you got, Rick?
Yeah, I'm going with Wazoo as well. It's at Martin Stadium on a Friday night, and both outstanding quarterbacks. Both have had their struggles. I just see Cam Ward, having a better opportunity to win because they're at home. I think collectively Washington State's a better team than Colorado. Colorado's had issues all year, and now the latest issues with the offensive play calling. I just think time has run out on Colorado, and they have a tough 2 games. They have at Washington State and that at Utah. It's going to be a close game, but I have Washington State winning by about a touchdown. Tony, what do you think?
I'm going to take Washington State winning at Martin Stadium and losing in Olympia at the state Supreme Court. Or at least getting a stay. I'm putting Washington State at Kirk. There's no way Kirk Schultz wins 3 games in 1 week. He already got 1 legal win.
That's right.
There's no way he gets a win over Colorado and a second legal win. That's too much winning for Kirk Schultz. So you know what? I'm giving them the football win and the loss at the state Supreme Court in Olympia, and we'll see what happens. Go Cougs. All right, next up to bat, we've got the early game, and I mean, who would have thought here that, Utah would be wrapping up its season against highly ranked Arizona? We've got number 22 Utah, number 17 Arizona. the world is clearly not ready for this game because it's on the Pac-12 network.
I was going to say, at least it's a top 25 matchup on a big national TV network that everyone can. It is.
Did I screw that up? It is on.
No, I'm joking. No, I think you're right. I was joking. Let me
just make sure that's not a typo.
But it's crazy that it is.
Yeah, it is on the Pac-12 network. And by the way, the Pac-12 network, the last football game of the Pac-12 network, in fitting fashion. Do you guys know who the last football game of the Pac-12 network will be? Have you heard?
Is it the Stanford Notre Dame game?
The last live football broadcast. What?
I was going to say Stanford
versus Notre Dame.
What time is that?
But that's this week, right?
Next week.
No, it's next week because Cal plays UCLA next week. Right. They play this week.
The last game of the Pac-12 network is Notre Dame. Only the Pac-12 would screw that up. They get their biggest visiting team in history on the channel for their last game, and it's Notre Dame. And all those Notre Dame folks have to find how to get the Pac-12 network for the single last game it's going to air.
What time is that game?
I think it's a night game.
Isn't Cal UCLA also at night, 7:30 at night?
Cal UCLA is the after dark game.
Okay.
So and we'll get to this as we get ready for next week, guys. The last Pac-12 regular season game in the conference history, as it is anyway, before it goes through whatever metamorphosis. The last Pac-12 game will be Cal and UCLA.
We'll remember to turn the lights off.
Quite literally at the road.
So on this game, real quick, the matchup of Whittingham versus potential future UCLA head coach Jedd Fisch. Arizona has had a nice little run, right? I talked them up for a few weeks. Yeah, I thought we would get out of the desert, luckily, but we didn't. Kudos to Arizona for having its string of 3 top 25 wins that kind of catapulted them into the national spotlight. Those 3 wins in a row, though, are kind of looking a little bit more fraudulent because one of them was Washington State, who everyone beats now, apparently. And the other was against a bad UCLA team that's about to fire its head coach. So really the only good win was Oregon State win that required Jonathan Smith to try a fake field goal at the end of the first half from 30 yards out. So yeah, you look at Arizona and they're playing good football, but they've had some clunkers too, right? They only beat Stanford by a point. They beat Colorado by 3. I think that they're really good. I think that Jedd Fisch has done a phenomenal job getting talent to Arizona and taking them from what they were when he got there to what they are now. Yeah, and I think they've had a great year, and it's great for Arizona fans that they've had a taste of this success. And again, I think it's a really good team, and the offense is fun to watch, and their quarterback is fun to watch move the ball around. But give me the Utes to do a real defense, unlike UCLA, UCLA's defense is good also, but I think the Utes are going to do what the Bruins couldn't, and they're going to control that game and get out of the desert with a win.
Yeah, I think this is
Tim's got Arizona too. Who have you got, Rick?
Wait,
I have Utah, to be clear.
Yeah, he had Utah. So Chris has Utah. Tim's
got Arizona.
Tim has Arizona. This week it was reported that the president of Arizona is not very good at math for a calculator. Now he's finding he has to ask all of his faculty to comb their couches for money because they miscalculated, I think, $240 million. And so isn't it interesting that Oregon
How do you
State
lose $250 million as a public school?
I don't get it. Oregon State, they're going to take a financial hit most likely unless they are able to pirate with Kirk Schultz and Washington State the Pac-12 treasure chest. But look at UCLA sitting there.
Bobby Robbins is going to go up to Corvallis with his little bowl of porridge and be like, "Please, sir, may I have some more?"
Look at UCLA there. Okay, do we want Jonathan Smith? Do we want to throw money at Jonathan Smith or Jed Fish? One of them is going to say yes, right? Because Jed Fish, he's pulled a rabbit out of his hat only to be playing games in Ames and Stillwater and Lubbock for what, right? It's already come out this week that they're going to be cutting programs at Arizona. They're financially insolvent. So they've had a great year. He's done an amazing job, but you're going against Whittingham, and you're going against a prideful Utah team. The magic's going to run out in Tucson, and it's going to happen. Whittingham and the Utah defense is going to stifle Arizona in Tucson. They're a great story, but they're not going to be able to pull this one out. I got Utah winning this game.
Rick, I think you're right. Utah's defense is too good. Arizona has a good offense, and Fafita's having a great year. Yep. And I am Team Jed Fish. I am back in the A, bear down, the whole thing. But Utah, I think, is just going to be too much for him. Utah's going to be hungry. I got the Utes. I'm putting up a U. I think it's going to be a good one, though. I'm looking forward to watching that game. I'm glad it's early. And then we've got the afternoon game. And, guys, this is a game. This game belongs at 3:30 Eastern. See, when I grew up in Michigan, you'd watch the Michigan-Ohio State game, and then you'd watch USC, UCLA. And so I love having this game at the time that it's at. It's at 3:30 Eastern, 12:30 Pacific, right in the heart of the afternoon. We've got the Trojans and the Bruins. The gauntlet, the fight for the victory bell. Boys, who is the victory bell going home with?
So for the people that haven't heard, there's a lot of talk around UCLA world that Chip Kelly will probably not be the head coach for the UCLA football team starting next year. Putting that aside, it's always great to win this game. I think it's going to be a hard one for UCLA, though. And I think that would be true even if there wasn't talk of a coach being on his way out. The less interesting matchup to me is our defense against your offense. I think that, but speaking to it really quickly, the UCLA defense has been great. I talked about this with Rick earlier on his channel, previewing the game in a little bit more detail. But I think that our defense, while being very good and more than I think any UCLA fan could have asked for to start the year, is a little bit maybe not quite as elite as people thought at certain points in the year. The teams that were more one-dimensional, like a Washington State, we've been able to stop. But when we've played the more balanced, what I think are better offenses in the conference, of course, we don't play Oregon and Washington. But when we played Oregon State, who's one of the better offenses, and when we played Arizona, who I think is one of the better offenses, and at least, like very balanced and very good, those teams moved the ball on us and scored. And I think SC's offense is a lot more similar to an Oregon State or an Arizona than it is like a Utah or a Washington State. I think you guys have balance. I think you guys are good. I think it's potentially Caleb's last game and he wants to go out with a bang. So I think you guys are going to be able to score more than most teams score against us. And then on the other side of the ball, it's a struggling UCLA offense against a struggling UCLA SC defense. And despite what SC fans might think of their own team's defense, and regardless of the coaching situation, I do think that our offense is going to have more hiccups. And I think we're going to maybe we can run the ball on you with some success, but I think it's going to be hard for us to keep up. I think that we score a little bit, but I think that USC scores more, and I think it's going to be something like a 31-21 or so for a SC win. As much as it pains me to say it, and I hope to be wrong by about 100 points.
You know, that's kind of amazing that you actually
Tim's taking SC too.
That you took SC, because I look at it and I'm worried about this game. The only thing I'm not worried about is I know that we got Caleb Williams, and I don't know which quarterback is going to start for UCLA. Frankly, I don't think it really matters. What matters is their run defense. They're number one in the nation against the run. They give up 70 yards a game, and their front seven is serious. They're stout. They're good defensively, and they get after the quarterback. So that's been USC's problem ever since we started playing good competition, is they know how to stop the run, make our offensive line look pedestrian, causing false starts, penalties, illegal man downfield, having to call timeouts, lack of communication, can't open up holes, can't run the ball. And then they pressure the heck out of Caleb Williams, and he's running for his life. You saw what happened at Autzen. They had 3 sacks. It felt like they had about 8, but they were pressuring him all afternoon. And I think that's the key. If UCLA can get the pressure and stop the run and run the ball on USC, which everybody's been able to run the ball, then they've got a chance. They have to create turnovers, create short fields, short field position for quick scores, cheap touchdowns, and then they have a chance. So it's going to come down to forcing turnovers. At the end of the day, I think this is going to be Caleb Williams' last game as a Trojan. I think there's a 5% chance that he'll actually play in a bowl game, because any bowl game that we're going to go to is going to probably be in El Paso, LA, or Las Vegas. Not much incentive there. But at the end of the day, USC has Caleb Williams. It's going to be an ugly game. It's for pride. It's for the last Pac-12 matchup between these two schools. And the Pac-12 has been a disaster. This is a great year, but the whole expansion, in my opinion, was a disaster from leadership on down. So it's only fitting that the expectations weren't met for the seasons for USC and UCLA, just like the Pac-12 network expectations and Larry Scott's vision of the Pac-12 were never met. It was a poop show. And so this is going to be a sock puppet matchup, a pillow fight. But they're going to look good in the uniforms, and there might be some rain. So how about that? This will be a great prelude to the Big Ten, because we should be having some Big Ten weather. I got SC winning 38-28. Tony.
The rain worries me a little bit, because our field gets kind of gross when, not muddy gross, but like slippery gross when it rains. I think the USC offense is too much for them. I have no idea what to expect from the USC defense. Thankfully, I watched UCLA's offense, and it was a pretty sad display at all times. But if this is Chip Kelly's last game, and we've gotten indications from people that usually know these things, say he knows it's his last game. Or I don't know if and Chris, you might know, I don't know if he's going to coach the Berkeley game or not, but they'll have announced that it's his last game, whatever. He's going to come out with a tear. Go ahead. Sorry,
you're saying with respect to Chip?
Yeah. Do they think will he coach the Cal game?
I think
don't know.
I think it depends. I think that if UCLA wins this game, then they might just wait till the end of the season to fire him. I think that if we lose, then they will fire him now, and they might fire him after this game regardless. I wonder if it comes out as like a resignation rather than a firing, since it seems like everyone seems to know what the deal is, even though it hasn't happened yet.
It could be a little more graceful. I mean, I kind of like when teams do that. I mean, I thought it was classic. Brady Hoke retired. Like, just, you don't have to necessarily come for the scalp.
Right, as long as he's still getting the same amount of buyout money and like whatever, like
yeah, exactly.
I have no problem if it says I have no reason to be like I'm not looking for blood. I don't need it to say he was fired on Sunday versus he resigned or however. But it seems that, like, as of right now, the way that reporters and insiders that would know way more than me, because I don't know anything, are talking about it is that, yeah, it's done. He's not around next year. It's a matter of time, and probably as early as Sunday.
All right. Well, I mean, I think it's going to be a better game than I want it to be, but I'm still going to say SC by 1 billion. I think it's probably going to be like SC by 7. But we'll see what happens. Fight on. By 7 or 1 billion. Now a game here, guys, that, I mean, just on the surface just should be an absolute atrocious blowout. But will it? Arizona State, by the way, we did not mention this earlier. Arizona State has a new AD on the way. Arizona State fired athletic director Ray Anderson earlier this week. Now, Tim tells us he's got Oregon. Who have you guys got?
They fired their athletic director even after that big win in Pasadena.
Gone.
That game was. Tony, I don't know how much you saw of it. The first half of, I got to talk real quick because Dillingham some credit. The first half of that, especially UCLA Arizona State game, was hilarious because you had UCLA, who had Colin Schlee, a quarterback who's like very dynamic running the ball. We're running like the equivalent of triple option on some plays. Anytime we try to throw the ball, we can't. So it's like, it's a good thing we got the Navy guy because we're kind of going service academy style. and then you had Arizona State, who has its own quarterback issues and injuries. They had, one quarterback playing for, like a third of the snaps. Then they had their running back playing quarterback and also throwing the ball in it. And they had their tight end playing quarterback, all out of a swinging gate formation where their offensive line is like all the way down by the sideline. They got the center as the only offensive lineman, in the middle of the field, and the wide receivers on the other side. It's, if you haven't seen it, you don't know what the swinging gate is, or
it was Dilly Delight.
Yeah, chat. If you haven't seen it, go find a picture because it's hilarious. And they didn't do it as like a gimmick, right? They did it as like this is our offense for a while. And I think the idea has some like merit behind it, because I think they're looking at UCLA's defense saying, oh, their defensive line and their ability to rush the passer and is like the best thing. So why don't we just put all of our offensive linemen away from the ball and make all their defensive linemen go down there, and then we don't have to deal with them. Is kind of what it felt like a little bit. So credit to Dillingham for scheming that up pretty good and shocking me, at least, for sure.
David Woods, I think it was, said something like Dillingham is either the greatest genius in the game or doesn't know the rules of football, and I can't tell which.
No, it seriously looked like a Pop Warner game you would see down in like Orange County, California, with like some guy that's never coached before, and he's like running about a bunch of like 10-year-olds out there that are going to run, swinging gate for the hell of it. But it like, it made sense and it worked. And they won the game, and like a lot of credit to them. So I like Dillingham. I think we've said this a lot on this show. I think it's a hard year for them, but they got one last week, but it's going to be a different story this week against this Oregon team that is far too good, and is not going to have the same kind of offensive issues that UCLA had, and I fully expect them to dominate this game.
Yeah, Oregon may have had trouble in the desert previously, but this game is just going to be out of hand. And Dan Lanning is going to tear apart what's left of the ASU Sun Devils. The fact that they actually beat UCLA, it's very hard to believe that they went into the Rose Bowl, but they did. But Oregon is just, they're going to destroy ASU by like 35 points.
Yeah, I think you guys are right. I think it's just going to be a bloodbath. And you know, there is a little bit of coach rivalry here too, guys, because remember, Dillingham came from Dan Lanning's staff. So I don't think they will humiliate him. You know, like they won't try to score 70, but they're gonna make it clear that they're in charge. And we'll see what happens. But also, you know, exciting new times. Keep an eye out on the Arizona State AD job, because that's a pretty good AD job. And it'll be interesting to see who they catch. Connor John says Lanning has a flight to catch to College Station Sunday morning. We'll see.
Hey, Tony, you're right about that. You're right about that ASU job being a great job. I hear they're a sleeping giant.
They've been a sleeping giant for quite some time, haven't they? All right, gang. We have the last big game in the Pac-12 between two of its founders, Cal and Stanford, playing at Stanford Stadium, the last big game of the Pac-12. Who is going to pull this off? Is it going to be the Fighting Oskies or the Mighty Trees?
So the Bears still have a little something to play for here, sitting at 4-6. They can beat, you know, two of the California schools in the next two games with Stanford and UCLA to make a bowl game. And I think they have a way better chance of it to do that than I would have thought they did, maybe, you know, even just a week ago. You already know who I'm going to pick, but Tony, it'll make you, you might be interested to know, I texted, you know, the Cal alumnus that I'm, you know, pretty close with. And I asked him, you know, on Sunday before these rumors started coming out about Chip Kelly, I asked him, like, on Sunday after the Arizona State game for UCLA, like, you know, hypothetically, when Cal plays UCLA, would you trade coaches? And he said no. So we got a Wilcox believer, at least, especially. Maybe it's just a Chip doubter. But I do. I say this a lot. I think there's a lot of people that disagree with me. I think I think Wilcox is a much better coach than he's given credit for. I know he hasn't had as much success there as they would have wanted, but I do actually think he's a good coach. That being said, yeah, you already know who I'm gonna pick. Give me the Bears. You know it. You tell the story. You tell the whole damn world this is Bear territory. Bears go into Stanford Stadium and put a walloping on the tree.
Yeah, Cal has everything to play for.
Tim's got Cal also.
Yeah, Cal has everything to play for. 2 wins, and they get a bowl game. And they're not having the season they expected to. Frankly, their defense has kind of let them down. This is the first year that I can remember where Wilcox hasn't had a pretty good defense. And they usually upset a team or two, but I was looking at Cal more of an 8-4 team this year. I'm sure the Cal fans were thinking the same thing. But I like the pieces that Cal has. With Ott, if he's healthy, they have a couple other good backs as well. And hey, you know, Mendoza can fling it around. I think he's He's got some offense with his legs and in the passing game. I think it's going to be a field goal game. I think Cal sneaks one out and beats Stanford.
Yeah, I think Stanford is going to be better than people think, but not good enough to win. I've really been impressed. Troy Taylor took a dumpster fire and has made them, kind of bad. And that is actually very much like Colorado. I mean, heck, he beat Colorado. So, I give Troy Taylor a lot of credit for what he's doing, but I think Wilcox has got Cal in a little better place. So, in the battle of Oski and the tree, I'm taking Oski. California Golden Bears.
Hold on, you
Bears. Fight song, but I don't know the words. And it's the same as UCLA's. So there's that. But go Bears. All right. Next up, the game of the week in the Pac-12. The game that really should have College Game Day there, especially given that College Game Day is going to James Madison, probably to celebrate their whole bowl thing, and now they don't get to go to a bowl. I don't know if you guys heard that. James Madison's waiver for a bowl game was rejected. So game of the country really here. We got number 5, Washington, number 11, Oregon State going into Reser Stadium. The chainsaws will be out. Boys, who is going to win this game?
I've gone back and forth on this, to be quite honest with you, because on one hand, even though I've had Oregon higher power rated than Washington, I do think I want to take a second to say that I do think that Washington deserves to be in the top 4 of the college football playoff based on their resume. But I think they're at 5, right? I think they do deserve to be higher. So, and I do think that they're more deserving of going to the playoff at this point in time than Oregon. But this is a really interesting game because the way the Beavs have played this year is so much different than last year that it's made me harder. It's harder for been less obvious to me to appreciate them and how good they are. Because last year defensively they could be stifling at times and it was just really impressive. And this year's team's a little bit different in that they have a lot of success on the offensive side of the ball. But Washington is just so dynamic offensively. I go back and forth. I think it's my head says, Washington too dynamic offensively, Oregon State a step back on defense from what they were last year. And that, it's, even if it's a shootout, Washington has, it's done what it needs to do in every game and won shootouts every time. But hasn't looked impressive against lesser teams. So if they sleepwalk a little bit, maybe Oregon State has a chance. And then I think the Oregon State side for me is a little bit more emotional and just kind of loving the Beavs and wanting to see them go out in a blaze of glory before in the last season of the conference and get some Corvallis nighttime magic. And I think ultimately I'm going to go with my heart and take the Beavers with the upset in Corvallis to give a little shock to the world and in true Pac-12 fashion start doing what everyone else didn't and start ruining playoff chances.
Tim's got Washington too. Who do you got, Rick?
Okay, who did you take, Chris?
Oregon State.
Yeah, so he's got Oregon State. Tim's got Washington. This is an incredible game. I'm so happy that it's at Reser and appreciate all the Beaver fans that are in the chat. Clint Moses and Connor Johnson. I think Clint says it best. Beavs lead the pack in interceptions, pass breakups, QB hits, and team sacks. At the end of this day, this game is going to be won with defense. Oregon State has a tremendous defense. They'll probably tell you they had a better defense last year, but I'm looking for them to peak and play their best defensive game against Washington. And they're going to shut down – you're not going to shut down Penix, but you're going to cause havoc. You're going to create turnovers, and that crowd is going to be on fire. They are going to be behind the Beavs, and the Beavs are going to upset the Huskies. And, boy, I'd love to be in Corvallis on Saturday night because that place is going to rock. The IPA will be flowing. The chainsaws will be on fire. So, Beavs, I've got you. I got your back. Good luck.
So all logic and everything I know about the Pac-12 tells me that this game is going to end with Mike Parker on the call saying something like, the Mighty Huskies thought they could come out with a win, but they got to come up tonight in Corvallis, Oregon. Mike Parker has that rich voice. I can't imitate it, but he's amazing. Everything tells me that Oregon State should win this game. And, I mean, just the Pac-12's the way it eats itself, the way it cannibalizes itself, the way I watched Washington play absolutely no defense of any kind against USC, the way I watched Washington struggle against Arizona State. Oregon State, the recipe is laid for this win. However, Washington's pretty good. Kalen DeBoer is pretty good. And I do not pick pirates or terrorists. So with that, bow down to Washington. Bum, bum, bum. Dubs up in the air. I'm not picking the Pirates until the Supreme Court lets us know that everyone else can keep their money. Johnny Depp and the Black Pearl, you're out of here. Bow down. But you're probably going to win. So that's my pick.
Are you riding the Pirates or what?
They should put, you know what they need? They should go steal the pirate ship from Tampa Bay. Like they're trying to steal the money from everybody else. Just go show up and be like, we got a court order from the smallest little courthouse in the world. We're taking your pirate ship. I don't know. Tampa Bay, the door's probably open. You can probably just take it. All right. Next up, we got some power rankings. These are kind of fun, guys. We got some changes in the power rankings this week. So let's see. All right, power rankings. We have some unanimity here. The bottom three: Stanford, Colorado, and Wazoo. Rick, you are high on Wazoo still. Talk to us about this. You and Tim.
Wait, did I pick? Well, I picked Wazoo. What am I doing?
It's the Pac-12. Quality and winning are not related.
Yeah,
you never know what's going to happen.
Wazoo's stumbled, but they did beat. Let's not forget they did beat Oregon State. They did beat Wisconsin, and so they've had some issues. But for that, that's why I have them at 10. They've won 4 games. Stanford's won 3. Colorado's won 4.
Yeah, I just for whatever reason, I just don't think that team today is that team that existed against Wisconsin and Oregon State. So that's why I have them. It's probably a little unfair, but I don't know. I think with the Stanford and College, they've played both of those schools, haven't they, and lost?
I think so.
Stanford beat Washington State 10-7.
Yeah, right. How could I forget?
That was like one of those sad Big Ten West games.
But I believe that was at Stanford. But if it was on neutral field, then it would be a tie.
9-3.
There you go. There you go.
A coin flip.
There you go.
Tim likes to remind us if it's on a neutral field. So I invoke the Tim rule on that one.
Fair enough.
I like it.
Field. Yeah.
All right. The next 3: Cal, ASU, and UCLA. Chris has UCLA the lowest. Rick and Tim have them the highest. I got them in the middle. And I think we're setting ourselves up here, guys, for quite an adventure next week for the big game. The Cal UCLA big game.
Yeah, you can't lose to ASU and then, be higher than like 8 or 9 in my opinion. Yeah, ASU is kind of there by default. I think next week when I even it out a little bit, they might drop below. But as the kids say, you got to give them their flowers, and you got to punish the Bruins because honestly, like maybe I just watched that game last weekend, and I don't know how you can think that if that UCLA team is the same team that plays Cal. I can't see us winning that game. So yeah, no, that's where I have them at this point in time. I mean, who knows? Maybe they go out and win one for the chipper, but like it didn't look good it didn't look good on Saturday, and I don't know what changes in the last 2 weeks to make it look better against Cal or USC. Maybe their defenses is what makes it look better.
All right, next up, another three-way. We've got Utah, Arizona, and USC all over the place. I don't think anybody knows what to make of any of these three teams. Utah's injury riddled. You never know what you're going to get. Arizona showing up, and USC, maybe they'll tackle somebody.
Yeah, I mean, I have USC at 6 because that's where they deserve to be. Even though Arizona, they did beat Arizona. Arizona's had some great wins. And they're ranked in the top 25. And if that game was a neutral game, Arizona could very well have won that game in triple overtime versus USC. So, and I've got Utah. I believe Utah and their defense puts them at the fourth best team. I see them behind, Washington, Oregon, and the third best team, which we'll get into. But they're still a solid team, even with their questions on offense. Looks like you and
the third best team. Yeah. I would say the third best team. We've got some unanimity on. I'm a Beaver believer.
There you go.
Number three across the board. We all
they get to play the two ahead of them over the next 2 weeks. So things can get real interesting for the Beavs.
There we go. I mean, the Beavs have their future laid out ahead of them. Knock those two off, and you're good to go. And by the way, I don't know if you guys know this. Do you guys know the historical context on the Beavs in the first year they were in the Pac-12?
No.
So Oregon State joined the Pac-12 in 1964 as an expansion team together with Oregon. Pac-12 was founded in 1959, and then later pretended it was a lot older, but it's not. It was founded in 1959. And they added Wazoo in 62. They added Oregon and Oregon State in 64. And so they only played a partial schedule because they literally added them in the summer, and they started playing in the conference in the fall. They already had a bunch of games scheduled. And Oregon State won the conference and went to the Rose Bowl in its first year with Tommy Protho. And then Tommy Protho was promptly stolen by UCLA to be their coach. So there could be some symmetry here. The Beavs could win the conference and then lose their coach to UCLA again. So we'll see what happens. Yeah, we may have some symmetry with the Beavs' first and last year of the Pac. So we'll see.
I'll let the Beavs fans know that are in the chat that if the Beavs, like I predicted, they're going to upset Washington at Reeser. When that happens, I will have the Beavs #1 next week because we know that Oregon's going to beat ASU, but I will have the Beavs #1.
Okay.
And the other factor I will have them #1 going into the Civil War is because Jonathan Smith owns Dan Lanning. Run the ball 19 times in a row right down their throat. That's what you will do. Good luck, Beavs.
He does. He does. All right, gang. Well, we've got some calls here. Let me put the thing up on the screen. We would love to have you guys call in and talk to us here on the show. Tell us what you think about the Pac coming up this week. Our first caller in line, we got Jeffrey from Only Talk Sports. Jeffrey, welcome to the show.
I appreciate you for having me on, man. It's going to be interesting this week. Some big games in the Pac for sure, and it's sad. I mean, it's getting closer and closer to it being all she wrote. You know, the conference is done. All these teams are leaving, going to the Big Ten, the ACC, Big 12. I don't know. It's just I'm just savoring every week with the Pac, enjoying the games, enjoying the shows. I didn't call in the last couple weeks. You know, it's kind of busy and stuff, but you guys are doing a great job. I'm glad to be back on this week. But, yeah, I'm going to go through the games real quick. First, when you talk about Colorado-Washington State, I was laughing about this game because of the fact that on the NFL last week, they had the game. I was watching Fox, and they were promoting this game still hard. They were like, check out on Friday night on FS1, Colorado and Washington State. I'm like, this isn't Colorado at the beginning of the year when they were undefeated. I mean, it's you know, we know they're not very good, and neither team really has a legitimate shot to make a bowl. I mean, they could, you know, obviously Colorado has a better shot than Washington State, but more than likely 99% chance they're not making a bowl no matter what happens, whoever wins. But yeah, I just thought it was funny they were still hyping the game up. And as Jackson points out, it should be on the Pac-12 network than the Utah-Arizona game. But I don't know. I've never seen a team collapse this hard in my life. And I don't know how Washington State beat Oregon State, and now they've just completely fallen apart. It's unbelievable what's happened with them, losing 6 straight games. In the Stanford game, they lost at home. It was at Washington State. Stanford beat them there. So the home field advantage isn't even helping out Washington State anymore. So if this was the Washington State team from the first 4 weeks, I'd easily pick them, but I'm going to go with Colorado. I mean, I don't trust them either because they're not very good. Also, they've collapsed, and Shedeur Sanders has absolutely no help. Cam Ward doesn't either, to be fair. But I think Colorado will win because at least they were competitive against Arizona last week, whereas Washington State, they've been abysmal against everybody. So I'm going with Colorado. Next game, you've got Arizona-Utah. Now, if Cam Rising was playing and this game was in Rice-Eccles, easily would pick Utah. But you're talking about them going on the road to face Arizona. And Arizona's been really good at home lately. They've been getting big wins. They've played a lot of ranked teams, and they've been competitive against basically all of them. The desert is real. It is for sure a tough place to play. And now that Arizona is actually good in November now, not like Khalil Tate and Mr. October. This is real. They're good in November. I think Arizona will win. And I'd never like to bet against Kyle Whittingham, but I'm going to go with Arizona over Utah this week. USC and UCLA. The Chip Kelly news is wild. I mean, it's crazy how he could possibly be fired. I mean, I know it was a bad loss against Arizona State, and I know they're about to go into the Big Ten, so you want more. You want, you know, them to be in better shape going into a new conference, playing some tough teams. I know that, but Dante Moore, after the Utah game and, you know, him not playing anymore, that really made UCLA fall apart because Garbers wasn't getting it done. The third string's not getting it done. That's when the offense just fell apart. When Dante Moore, even though he was turnover prone, they were better earlier in the year. You know, not to try to say that, you know, Chip Kelly's not to blame or anything, but it does stink for him because I feel like if Dante Moore didn't get, you know, knocked out, I think that they would have been better. But still, even though he was struggling. USC, though, their defense is awful, but UCLA's offense is worse right now. So I'm going to go with USC. They're going to win. Caleb Williams' final game. He's going to get it done. Fight on to you guys. They're going to get it done, I think. I hope for Caleb Williams. I felt really bad for him, you know, at the end of the Washington game when he was sad and everything, and they were, you know, showing it on the TV, and a lot of people were talking about that. I felt bad for him. I really do. I mean, he's played hard. It's not his fault they lost all these games. Oregon, Arizona State, it's not going to be close. I know that the desert and the fact that Arizona State, you've got the Kenny Dillingham connection with Dan Lanning and all that. I know that, and that's going to be interesting. But the way Oregon's playing, the Pac-12's weird. You know, it's so weird it's going away, but it's a weird conference. Upsets happen all the time. But if Oregon loses this game, my mind would be absolutely blown. It would be one of the most shocking losses of all season because Oregon has been dominant. That's why you guys have them number 1 in the power rankings. They've looked way better than Washington lately, so I'm going to go with Oregon to win fairly easily over Arizona State.
Jeffrey hasn't watched enough of the Pac-12 then if he thinks that logic has any bearing on what happens in this conference. Whether it's on the field, in the courtroom, in the boardroom, Logic doesn't matter in this conference.
And people couldn't take it anymore. That's why they're all getting out of there. It's hilarious. I mean, it's like someone said in chat earlier. Courts happening all over the place.
in the least logical ways. You read the court filings, half those things don't make sense. You're like, somebody wrote this? Really? Anyway.
Sometimes you feel like it's because, well, you're not a lawyer, so it doesn't make sense. But I don't even know if the lawyers can make sense of it. So it's hilarious.
No, my lawyer friends have not enjoyed reading. They're like, they got $600 an hour to write that? Anyway, all right, go on.
That's hilarious. 41st anniversary of the play, the game. Me and Jackson always like joking about it because we always, hype up this game, especially last year was the 40th anniversary. But Cal and Stanford, I still refuse to call it Cal Berkeley. I'm calling it Cal. California and Stanford. This game right here, I wish I could watch it. I wish I could watch the Utah-Arizona game. That game should not be on the Pac-12 network, but this one I get. But this is going to be a good game, but because Cal, like you guys said as well, they still have something to play for, they're going to win. They should, but like you said, logic makes no sense in this league. So I'm going to go with Cal, but you never know. And then the last game, Washington and Oregon State. Imagine this. If Oregon State did not lose, if they did not lose to Washington State and Arizona and they were undefeated, this game's hype would be through the roof, and game day would have to go. I know why they're going to James Madison because I feel bad for them. I've said it tons of times on my channel. They need to be able to play in a bowl game. It's not fair that you get to jump into the FBS and you can't play in a bowl game when you're 10-0 and you're not even able to be ranked in the CFP, but you're ranked in the AP. I think it's terrible. So I know why they're going there. It's cool, but they should be here at this game, even though Oregon State is 2 losses. Because this game is going to be fantastic. I am worried for Washington because Oregon State's defense has not regressed that hard. They're not as good as they were last year, but they're really good. Their offense is better, and there's something about Reeser. It's a small stadium, but it's loud. It's like Rice Eccles, but even smaller, and their fans are awesome. It's going to be a great game, but I'm going to go with Washington. I know, like, everything's telling me to pick Oregon State, but I'm going to go with Washington by, around
because you don't support piracy?
I don't know. It's more Michael Penix. I just believe in Penix. He was at IU. I want him to succeed.
You're using talent to make decisions in this league? What's up with that?
I don't know. I mean, I could be wrong. I get games wrong all the time, but I'm going to go with Washington. I think that they're going to be able to pull out this one. But if Oregon State wins, I wouldn't be surprised. But like you said, the Pac-12 always cannibalizes itself. All these teams beat up on each other. It's like somebody make the playoffs. Somebody make the playoff, whether it's Washington or Oregon. If Oregon State hadn't lost 2 games, they could have done it. You just do not beat each other up. Somebody get in, but we'll see. But I don't know if you guys have any thoughts on my picks, but that's my thoughts on the games.
I'll tell you this thing that I'm really torn on, which is this whole James Madison thing.
Mm-hmm.
Because well, also, by the way, one last thing, by the way, just also for game day, like for that, this is a night game. So for them to come and do game day at, the break of dawn, the middle of the night, like it's really not as, even though Oregon State would surely make it fine. Like just, game day 12 hours before the game, before the crack of dawn. It's production. And I think it's supposed to rain there. Like production wise, it tends to not be as good as if they can go to an East Coast location where they're 2 hours before the game and the campus is bustling and all that. So I get why
that makes complete sense. And I remember when they did it with Oregon, I was either last year or 2 years ago, and it was still dark and there was people there, but it wasn't as good as a regular game.
Pouring rain, it's dark. The game's not till a night game. That game was a day game. That Oregon game was a day game. This is a night game. So, I get why they didn't do it. But my other issue with James Madison, I'll tell you, is so I very much support statehood for D.C. and enfranchisement for D.C. voters, just like I support JMU going to the bowl game. But one of my friends likes to tease my D.C. friends where he's like, none of you are from D.C. He's like, none of you were original landholders in the, the compromise of 1790. Y'all moved there. You knew the rules. And I was like, oh, that's such a good point. Even though I disagree with it.
Plus, it's a very small landmass. It's like 10 miles, right?
Yeah. If you want, you can live in Maryland. You can live in Virginia. It's right there. You can see it. But I feel a little bit I feel like my friend when I look at this JMU thing, because it's like those rules are there for a reason. And by the way, those rules were put there by the schools. The NCAA is not like the empire from Star Wars. It's literally run by the schools and the presidents. They have put those rules in for a reason. They told you when you made the move up, you couldn't go to a bowl game for such and such a time. And so I think it's a dumb rule. I think the rules shouldn't be there. But I also don't think every 2 weeks we need to have a panic and like apply for a waiver like we didn't know it was there the whole time.
Well, you're right, and I agree 100%, but it's because in this case we're talking about a good football team. Because most of the time when teams make the jump,
they should be a good football team. They won how many national championships?
I agree, but like Sam Houston, jumps and they're bad, and they're not even bowl eligible. They're terrible. But with James Madison, they're undefeated. I know you're right. The rules are there, and obviously it is what it is, but I think in that case, there's like people always say, well, this is the rule, but there are exceptions. That should be an exception. James Madison should be an exception to the rule.
But change the rules. If you want, if you want to get rid of the rule, get rid of the rule. But you don't need a waiver. Like the rule is there or it's not. And I think it should not be there. I think it's a dumb rule. But like the presidents put the rule in, so don't act like the NCAA is this like evil victimizer. Because the presidents put the rule in.
You're also right about James Madison being really good in the FCS, but I mean, they went to a conference where the talent's comparable. Like if North Dakota State went to like the Mountain West or like the Pac-12 before it disintegrated, they wouldn't win a lot. Look at the Big 12. None of their teams are doing any good there in the Big 12. All the ones that jumped up, like UCF, BYU, they're all struggling.
I called that.
But James Madison, you're right for sure. I thought one of them would be decent, maybe BYU, but even they're falling apart. But they're kind of decent, but they're not very good. But James Madison went to a conference where they could compete. The Sun Belt has good teams, but they were so good in the FCS. That's why they're winning. I just think they should make a bowl. Like I said, the rule is what it is, but I don't know.
I think
I'm not tired to change it.
I think they should, but I think that we need to stop like asking for a waiver every 3 hours. Like, let's ask for another waiver. Like, no, if you want to change the rule, change the rule. By the way, the presidents can change the rule tomorrow if they want.
Well,
so
it's
call your
like,
president.
for example, the Tez Walker situation where he was, not eligible to play at North Carolina. I like the rule where you couldn't transfer twice and play that they used to have. If you transferred, you had to sit out a year, but then they made it where you could transfer once, and if you transferred again, you were supposed to sit out. But then you had guys like JT Daniels transferring again and again and again, and he never sat out. So why did Tez Walker have to sit? It didn't make any sense.
Oh, it's craziness.
I don't get anything anymore when it comes to college.
Anyway, sorry, I didn't mean to go on a tangent. It's not Pac-12.
Oh, you're good.
I should be yelling at myself.
Well, I mean, I'm looking forward to these
hey, Jeffrey, it's going to be fun. Guys, hey.
No, I was just saying, I'm looking forward to these games.
Everybody, check out Jeffrey's channel.
I appreciate you having me on.
Everybody, check out Jeffrey's channel at Only Talk Sports. He is awesome, and you guys should be watching his pre-games.
Thanks a lot. I appreciate you having me on. I cannot wait for the games. Talk to you guys soon.
Jeffrey. We'll see you, man.
It's going to be fun. We'll see you soon. All right. Next up, we got Jackson Johnson. Jackson, welcome to the show.
Oh, thank you for having me on, gents. How you doing tonight?
Doing great. Jackson, yourself?
Good. What are you thinking about the games this week?
I'm loving the games. I'm loving this game, Washington, Oregon State. I got to be honest. I'm pretty mad about Oregon State being disrespected by ESPN, honestly. I mean, I get it. James Madison is getting screwed over by the NCAA. But here's the thing. Oregon State could be playing.
But here's the thing.
Go ahead.
Let me interrupt that with just one question. Is this about ESPN's TD production that they have to put on, or is this some kind of like, or is this some kind of, or is this some kind of like national system of reward? Because as far as I'm concerned, at the end of the day, this is a TV production that ESPN has to put on. We don't have to like it, but like it's not like they were like stolen from them or something. It's just, it is what it is.
But honestly, because I'm just like, Oregon State has a shot to play spoiler for Natty Hopes for Washington. I mean, this is good television right here. I mean, this is a pretty good football team. And Jonathan Smith, we could see something that 2023 Oregon State.
You mean Tommy Prothro version 2.0?
Something like that. We could see them do something that 2017 Auburn couldn't.
No, you're not.
Win the final 2 biggest games on your schedule, then the conference title. That's pretty big. Chris, I'm sorry that UCLA went down against Arizona State.
Yeah, it was. I to be honest with you, I was laughing in the first half. Like, I was kind of upset against Arizona, right, and like kind of upset against Utah and Oregon State because I thought there were ways to win those games, even though they were both better than us. But like against Arizona State, I was kind of just laughing because did you watch it too? Like, you watch what Arizona State did on offense and whatnot? It was funny. It was like a funny fitting kind of like way to put the nail in the coffin, so to speak.
Yeah, I mean, after I saw that report from 247 Sports, I forgot his name where he said Chip Kelly's likely done. I'm just like,
yeah, Tracy Pearson was the one reporting that. Yeah,
that's the guy's name, Tracy Pearson. And I'm looking forward to Washington, Oregon State, but the USC UCLA game, and as a famous coach named Red Sanders once said, describing this rivalry, it's not a matter of life and death. It's much more important than that. Oh man, that's gonna be fun.
He did. He said it before Lombardi.
Yep. Battle of LA. Go ahead, Chris.
Jackson, what do you think is worse, UCLA's offense or USC's defense?
You're not gonna get your feelings hurt, USC Nation. I hate to say it, but that defense, sorry.
No, it's okay.
I would challenge you, Jackson, because here's my question. If no one is tackled, is it really a defense?
That is true.
That is the worst defense I've ever seen.
Maybe I've sat through too many court hearings this week, but I'm wondering if under the Pac-12 bylaws, if USC's defense is legally a defense. Things to ponder.
That's a good question. I'm definitely looking forward to this game.
Us getting Trojan fans, they're all typing right now. They're mad at me.
Yeah, because I mean, honestly, the Georgia-Tennessee game's nice and all, but this is the go-to game for me at 2:30. I mean, let's be real. Georgia's going to whip Tennessee. USC-UCLA is one of the best rivalries in all of college football. I'm plopping my butt down watching this game on ABC.
Well, this is Caleb's last probably game as a college
quarterback.
So, yeah, you want to watch that?
I don't know. Maybe he'll be like Bryce Young and play in the bowl game. I mean,
yeah, I give him a slight chance, but it's not. Bryce Young wasn't playing in the LA Bowl or the Vegas Bowl or the
Sun Bowl, wherever we're gonna be.
Yeah. Tony the Tiger Bowl. Tony the Tiger.
Oh my God!
Bowl.
If you got to play in the Vegas Bowl, that'd be so cool. Being in Vegas. Oh my God, that is an awesome location.
Yeah, bring on Florida.
But Vegas is where we go for fraternity formals, not for bowl games.
Yeah, me personally, I'd love to go there. The Vegas Bowl. That's just me now.
Yeah, but the problem with the Vegas Bowl is you're playing like Wyoming and you lose because it's just not good.
Hey Jackson, did you see the Missouri game, Missouri-Tennessee last week?
Oh man, Tennessee got drubbed.
Did you see that game?
I did for a little bit. I was watching the Missouri-Tennessee game, and I was watching a little bit of Oklahoma State and UCF. I got to tell you, Missouri just got out that belt and spanked them. So
that's what my question leads to is there anything – I mean, they spanked them like a piñata. So is there anything left? Is there any, like, innards, any guts left for Tennessee to even put up against Georgia? Is Georgia going against an undermanned Tennessee team that has nothing left? That got exposed.
I mean that Tennessee team. Oh man, they're gonna get beat down by Georgia. That's why I'm just kind of like, I'm not watching that game. I'm watching this game.
You know, I mean, is Mizzou that good, or is just Tennessee having a way off year?
I think it's Tennessee having a way off year, honestly.
Yeah. Right.
That's what I believe. But I think the same could be true for Mizzou, that they're having a pretty good year.
Yeah.
I shouldn't have doubted Eli Drinkwitz, though. But I digress. I was also thinking about Utah, Arizona. Now I gotta say, they're getting some major league disrespect. I mean, being on the Pac-12 network instead of like somebody like Fox or ESPN, or at least Fox Sports 1. I mean, you know, it's
Notre Dame.
It is kind of crazy. It is kind of crazy though, if you think about it. You're an Arizona fan, right? It's like you're like first like top 25 matchup you've had in forever, and and you're like, you know, you're having your best season in a long time. First time you're bowl eligible in like 7 years, and you're in this like huge game, and it's on freaking Pac-12 network. That is a bummer for those people.
Yeah, I remember looking on Instagram earlier this week, and I was looking at Always Irish, John Kennedy. He was not too happy. He had his Bill Burr moment. You know, he was not too happy about Notre Dame Stanford being on Pac-12 network.
I can see why a Fox or ESPN wouldn't want to put this on their network, and why it's relegated to the Pac-12. Yes, the Pac-12 is having a great year. But what did the Pac-12 do to market itself the previous 11 years?
True.
They did nothing. So there's a financial risk for TV networks to put on a product and put advertising. And yes, they are great. They're having great years, and I feel bad for Arizona. But you know what? At the end of the day, it's Salt Lake and Tucson. It doesn't drive the needle. It doesn't. It doesn't make the money. It doesn't pay the bills. It's a nice little story. That's great. But you know what? Hey, this is a prelude to a Big 12 game. And the Big 12's, it's a poor conference. So no disrespect. It's just reality. It's not personal. It's just business. That's all.
True. College football is a business like any other.
Here's a question for you. Is this one of the best Big 12 games of the year?
Exactly. There you go. It's a Big 12 game.
It one of the best Big 12
games of the year. Well, thank you, Jackson.
Well, thank you.
Everybody check out Jackson's channel, The Jacksonian. He does great stuff there.
Roll Tide this weekend. Who do you got this weekend?
Obviously Bama, but I don't even know if I'm watching Bama Chattanooga. I hate Cupcake Week.
It's okay, man. Just reload. Get ready for Auburn. Auburn's going to be a battle. You guys will take care of Auburn, but you know.
Yeah, but Auburn will be giving us quite a battle. And something that Coach Saban has never done is beat an Auburn squad for 4 straight years. So this year definitely has me a little nervous.
It'll be a good one.
I'm so excited about the battle. Roll Tide and fight on, and good luck to the Bruins and good luck to the Trojans. I am greatly looking forward to the 2023 edition of the Battle of LA between USC, UCLA, and the 41st anniversary of the Band is All Over the Field, and also the 55th anniversary of the Heidi game.
I like it. Thank you.
Thanks, Jackson.
See you.
Thank you for having me on, gents.
All right, we got one more caller. We got Will ND. Will, welcome to the show. Will, Notre Dame is headed to the Pac-12 network. What do we think about this? The last Pac-12 network game, live game, will be Notre Dame.
I mean, it just shows how much of a disappointment the season's been, man. I mean, I thought we were going to win out after beating you guys, but then we had another road disaster against a decent team. But, hopefully we go 10-3. I mean, it's better. It's an improvement on 9-4 at least. But, yeah, who knows? Yeah, I don't know. It's going to be an interesting offseason again for the Irish. But
what do you think about the Pac games this week?
Okay, I'm torn. I'm torn on Huskies Beavs. My heart wants the Beavs to do it. My heart wants the Beavs to win their last 2 games. But my head wants the Pac-12 championship game. Winner goes to the playoff. I want both, but I can't have both.
Don't doubt the Beavs.
Who are you picking?
I think the Beavs are going to do it.
Yeah. They're a damn good team.
Yeah.
I'm with you, Will.
I believe him. What do you have for SC UCLA? The game of no offense versus no defense.
It's just like our game.
Yes.
I mean, I don't feel like Caleb's going to have a bunch of turnovers, so I think SC will win.
Yep. Smart man.
I like it.
Yeah.
And what do you think about this game, the game of collapsed seasons?
I picked the Buffaloes to win. I picked Ralphie. But I don't know, man. I feel bad for the Cougs faithful. What a disappointing season.
What a roller coaster.
So, right, they won in court today.
Mm-hmm.
They won in court, so we'll give them that. And then give us an early prediction. Go ahead, Rick.
No, I was just going to say, Washington State did beat Wisconsin, and I just happened to look at the standings in the Big Ten West, and Northwestern is 5-5. When did that happen?
They're keeping their interim coach.
And then I looked at Wisconsin as 5-5. Minnesota is 5-5.
Iowa was winning it by default.
So I want to ask a question, Will, because you know a little bit about the Big Ten. Clue us in. Without laughing, don't laugh, but we have Michigan, Ohio State, Penn State. Who is the 4th best team in the Big Ten?
I'm gonna say, even though they've lost a couple of games, I'm still gonna say Maryland.
Wow. Really? Maryland is the 4th best team.
Maryland or Iowa, it's close.
So I look at the 4th best team in the Big Ten this year, and I compare it to the 4th best team in the Pac-12.
No comparison.
I think you'd probably have to say Utah is the 4th best team, arguably. I would have, Oregon or Washington, Oregon State, and then Utah.
Then Arizona.
Some people would have Arizona. But I would take Utah against Maryland all day.
Yeah.
Am I wrong?
You're exactly right, Rick.
Oh, my God. There's no depth. I mean, the Big Ten is,
Well, here comes the Pac to save the day.
I thought Northwestern was quitting their football team, or they blew up. I don't know what happened. I thought, and then I look and they got 5 wins.
Yeah, so it's interesting to me that they're like, oh, there's this widespread hazing stuff. We got to fire our head coach, and then the ultimate move is like the entire staff is still there. And they're just going to promote their defensive coordinator to head coach. It's like, oh, yeah, no issue anymore. All that hazing stuff.
Nothing to see here.
The one thing,
we're
though,
going to keep everyone besides one guy.
Well, yeah, I mean, for the bigger staff, there's a lot of questions. But remember, though, that he came in after the hazing was shut down. So they actually had already had the place crawling with lawyers. He came in after the hazing investigation started.
Right, but then the rest of the staff is like all the same.
And everybody down to the locker room attendants who were there for the purge mask, dick car wash, whatever else was going on. Northwestern, they're going to have a lot of questions to answer to, I think. My guess would be you'll see a lot of transfers from there, probably at the school's urging. So we'll see. Oh, well, guys, we're going to have some good games this week, but the other game I just want to call attention to, just to get everybody thinking about it, all the Pac-12 fans, is just remember, guys, to mark your calendars next week, Saturday night, Pac-12 After Dark on ESPN will be one last regular season game from the Rose Bowl of the two schools who started the conference. It's going to be something else.
It's giving me the feels.
Yeah, it gives me all the feels to think that it's going to be. I mean, there'll be the championship game in Vegas, whatever. There'll be, whatever happens with the Pac-2 in the future. But really, the last game of the Pac-12 is now scheduled, and it will be California and UCLA live from the Rose Bowl for Pac-12 After Dark.
You know what they should play for? Calamoni. Put it on the sidelines. a big old sack of money, right? If UCLA wins, no calamari for you. You got to earn it, Cal. You got to earn it. That's what they should play for. That
you got to win your calamari check.
College game day. That will bring college game day to the Rose Bowl. Money on the line. Book it. Tony,
Chris,
actually, Gumby points out they want fight song royalties. Fight song royalties are owed. For those of you guys who don't know, Cal and UCLA have the same fight song, and they used to have the same colors.
I'm going to watch this game. I'm going to watch this game.
Will the family be?
I'm going to watch it too.
In fact, if anybody wants to buy me a ticket, I will go to the Rose Bowl. I claimed I would never go there again unless it was a Rose Bowl. But if somebody wants to generously donate a ticket to a Trojan to go watch this game, I will go.
To answer your question, Will, the family will not be in attendance. The family will be together in my apartment on the other side of the country for Thanksgiving.
Okay.
But
oh, nice.
Yeah. So no, I will be with my dad watching this game. Yeah, and we'll see next week. But yeah, we'll try to remember to turn the lights off on the way out. But it is kind of cool to be the last regular season Pac-12 game. Yeah,
it's gonna be wild.
Mm-hmm.
Oh. Well, hey, gang, as we get ready to wrap up here, any final thoughts?
Sure, I'll go because my headphones are about to die, and then I won't be able to hear anything anyway. Thanks to everyone for hanging out. I appreciate it. Love talking football with everyone and hanging out with chat. So thanks everyone for coming by, and looking forward to the week. We'll see exciting times in the coaching hot board world for UCLA fans, but hopefully we take care of the Trojans first, and go Bruins. I'm now going to try to watch the DVR game of Long Island University versus UCLA that I missed just now. And hopefully we don't drop the ball like USC did last night against UCI. It's basketball season, boys. Have a good one. Bye.
See you, Chris.
Man.
Love you, man. Oh, daggers.
Daggers. Will, any final thoughts?
Just a great week of games in the Pac-12. We have 3 great games plus the big game that I'll keep my eye on. And yeah, I mean, even Colorado, Washington State will be interesting just to see 2 teams that had a disappointing season trying to get something out of it. And then, I mean, Oregon and against Sparky won't be close. But yeah, just pretty stacked lineup of games this week. Going to keep my eye on all of them. And yeah, hopefully they're all great games.
Well, thanks for joining us.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Will. Thank you to everybody that's in the chat tonight. They've been tuning in all season long and last year. Appreciate you guys. The show wouldn't be the show without you. And hey, there's some great games in the Pac-12 this weekend, and that's something that it's been difficult to say, but it's really intriguing. Starting out Friday night with Colorado and Washington State, what's going to happen there? Can Utah pull off the upset in the desert, even though they're higher ranked? But we know what Utah looks like away from Rice Eccles, but I think they're going to do it. And then, hey, I'm believing in the Beavs out there. This is your time. I think Washington is vulnerable. And if you get out on top of them with that defense, I think this is the game where Oregon State's defense is going to shine. They're going to have their best game of the year. And then SC and UCLA, it's a game that, hey, we haven't met expectations. One coach has lost his job. There's rumor for another one. But Tony had mentioned at the outset, it's 12:30. It's on ABC. You got the colored jerseys. It's for LA. Once the ball's kicked off, hey, then it's going to be on. And it's for pride and for a less sucky, lower tier bowl. But that's college football. It's beautiful. It's ugly all at the same time. We love it. Thank you, guys. Have a great week, and good luck to your teams. Fight on.
Well, hey, I just want to thank you guys for joining us, for spending the evening with us. We really appreciate it. Thanks to those of you guys who stayed till the end. I want to wish good luck to everybody's teams, whoever that is. I know we got Michigan folks in the chat. We got some Beavs in the chat. Beavs, you can pull it off. I can't root for you for piracy purposes or terrorism purposes, but I do think you're going to pull it off. So good luck to you, Beavs. And everybody else, thanks for watching. Good luck to the Cal Bears. Good luck to Stanford. Most of all, fight on, Trojans. We'll see you guys all live after the USC game for USC Post Game Live. Check out Tim does his call-in shows, and we'll see you guys back here next week as well for the Pac-12 Chat Show Live. Fight on, everybody.